Paige Bueckers is the best player in the country. Simple. You're Locked On UConn.
You are Locked On UConn, your daily podcast on the UConn Huskies, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks for making Locked On UConn your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Before we dive into today's show, I want to take a quick update for you guys. October was incredible for Locked On UConn thanks to your support. Our community is growing fast, and we're thrilled to give back by donating 10% of our revenue to Husky Ticket Project, helping send kids to UConn games, basketball, men's and women's, football, etc. We also make a monthly donation to Bleeding Blue for Good and hope you'll consider supporting them as well. If you're enjoying the show, please take a moment to subscribe and follow wherever you listen. Thanks to people like yourself that are making Locked On UConn their first listen every day. We are now a top 100 basketball podcast in the country. So today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. You can start the season with a big return on FanDuel. New customers can place a $5 bet, and you get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. Paige Bueckers is simply the best player in college basketball right now. She scored 19 of her 22 points in a scorching first half as number 2 UConn cruised to an 86-49 victory over former conference rival South Florida on Sunday. Bueckers led the Huskies to a commanding 43-25 lead by halftime, really showcasing her dominant and assertive play, setting the tone early. The superstar guard was unstoppable, asserting the aggressive style she'd promised at the beginning of the season and that her coach, Geno Auriemma, implored her to do. Quote, definitely wanted to start out every game aggressive, she said, aiming to set the tone for what we want for the rest of the game to look like and the season. The win marked career victory number 1215. I'm going to say that again, 1,215th win for UConn head coach Geno Auriemma, leaving him just one win shy of former Stanford coach Tara Vanderveer. That is going to be the college basketball record. With Paige and the team firing on all cylinders, Auriemma is poised to reach yet another historic milestone. Recapping a little bit from last Sunday's game, Ice Brady opened the game with the first 4 points. UConn surged to a 9-0 run, and Ashlynn Shade took over in the third quarter. I thought Ashlynn played fantastic, scoring 10 of UConn's 30 points. By the end of the third, Huskies had extended their lead to 73-39, missing back-to-back shots just once in the first 3 quarters. That's insane. And it's early in the season. And so when I say stuff like they only missed back-to-back shots once in the first 3 quarters, it just shows the level of efficiency that they're already having. And this is pretty much a brand new team. Obviously, some of the pillars are there, but it's really great to see those who are meshing well. Shade, who's shown really impressive growth, as we've talked about in her second season, finished with 15 points, while freshman Sarah Strong, who we love, added 13, and Brady contributed 8. The third quarter saw the Huskies freshmen and sophomores take over, scoring 27 of UConn's 30 points. Auriemma had to say they're gamers, praising the younger players for stepping up. Bueckers played a supporting role during the stretch, guiding her teammates more in a, I wouldn't even say as a back seat, but just kind of allowing them, what's a phrase that, the younger generation use? She allowed them to eat too. Everybody eats in this offense. And I think that's the prevailing theme from this. She's being supportive, but she's also being assertive when she needs to be. And I think that is what is so fantastic about this team's early returns. But the other thing I would say about this team is that their defense was stifling. They really kind of suffocated this team as they did against BU, the other day too. I think they had 25 steals and forced 33 turnovers, something of that nature. So this team is poised to continue to do that over and over again because they're pesky with KK, with Ashlynn, but they're also physically strong. I'm not just saying that because that's Sarah's last name, but it's really interesting, that even when Paige isn't scoring, 30, 40 points, or people want her to be that way. I mean, she was 9 of 10 from the floor. in this game against South Florida. It's incredible. Ice Brady was great shooting 3 for 3 from the field. She finished 1 for 3 in the season opener. I think there's some really interesting aspects to Ashlynn finding her rhythm. I think that really helps kind of give Paige another guard that is there to help her from a scoring perspective. I don't think Ashlynn would be able to do this on her own, but she's a complementary player to Paige, and I think that's what makes her really special. We're going to take a break, and when we return, we're going to talk through UConn's depth. Amazing to say that word out loud and not be worried about injuries and whatnot, and Geno nearing another milestone. We're going to talk about that after the break. What's up, everybody? We're talking about FanDuel here, America's #1 sports book, because right now new customers can bet $5, get $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of a game, you can check out the score and the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. You get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more on the official sports betting partner of the NFL. And you're back on Locked On UConn as we talk about the depth that shined in the South Florida game and the Boston game earlier this week. And as Geno Auriemma nears another milestone, what that will mean for the UConn women. I know that he doesn't want to talk about it. We did a whole show on a tribute for him, but we're going to talk about it because he's the greatest coach of all time. With Bueckers setting the pace, UConn's younger players took command in the second half against South Florida. We talked about Ashlynn Shade. She led the charge, showcasing her expanded skill set, and I feel like expanded confidence as well. This is a quote: "I feel more comfortable, more confident this year than I did last year." Shade explained, emphasizing how she's playing more freely and aggressively. This is something that I feel like is a key to the season as we wait for Easy Fudd's return. That Paige has what we thought was going to be Caitlin Chen as the kind of the secondary running mate. But I think whenever we get transfer portals or recruits like Sarah, and Sarah's going to be damn good, and she's just as complimentary, if not taking it backstage to really anybody. But I think it's human nature to think about the shiny new toy, the new person, versus thinking about when a freshman jumps from their freshman to sophomore year and having that leap. And I think that's part of what has been so impressive about Ashlynn. And so I think that's something that we need to remember on a daily basis, is that, when a person is in a program, they're constantly making strides to improve their game. And I think Ashlynn has done that, and we commend her, and we're excited about watching her play the rest of this year. Auriemma praised her progress, noting that her athleticism and natural aggression have started to really shine through. And I think that's a testament, again, to Ashlynn's want to and how much she loves the game of basketball. Ice Brady also showed some resilience, rebounding for early shooting struggles to score 8 points on an efficient 4 or 5 shooting. She attributed her improvement to strong pregame focus. Quote, "I would say it started in shoot-around," Brady shared, emphasizing patience and confidence in her shot selection. Meanwhile, the team's cohesion and defensive intensity were on full display. UConn's lead nearly doubled in the third quarter, building on a 15-4 run to close the first half with an 11-0 burst in which Paige and 4 other players scored, and supported by 2 assists from Caitlin Chen. UConn didn't let up, outscoring the Bulls 30-14 in the third quarter, showcasing the depth and chemistry that Auriemma has been cultivating. And he's got to be excited about. Forget about cultivating it. Forget about the aspect of having all of these players. But the fact that he can have these stretches where he doesn't have to always rely on Paige to score, because he knows that she can. Let's put it this way. To have that kind of ace in the hole every single time is what kind of makes him probably feel freer with this team. To have a Sarah Strong, to have an Ashlynn Shade, to have an Ice Brady shooting 4 or 5 from the floor, to have Caitlin Chen run the show if need be, to bring in Morgan Shelley, who I think was the most underrated recruit in the country, for 6 quick points, making threes. Ali Zabal, just KK Arnold. The list goes on and on. Caden Samuels. So it's an embarrassment of riches is what it is when they're healthy, and right now they are. So this team cohesion and defensive intensity were all over the place. And despite the lopsided score, Auriemma's high standards for the team were evident as he noted areas for continued improvement, right? He quoted, "Good teams don't detract from themselves. When they find something that is good, they build on it." Auriemma explained, praising the team's consistency through the third quarter. And I think what he means by that is regardless of what is working, and whether it's Jana down low, whether it's ball movement for open threes, whether it's transition, defensive trapping, defensive prowess of knocking the ball away. I think that is something that, if it's not broke, don't fix it, essentially is what he's saying. So it's definitely something that we should watch as the year goes on, especially as we get into the next segment when we talk about the North Carolina game, which is essentially their USF provided a different challenge than BU, is a bigger team, a team that plays in a better league, a team that's favored to win the American this year. I don't think that's saying much, but it was a step up in competition, and UConn did not kind of bring their level down at all. So I think that's really what is a testament to Geno and getting the team ready to go. And while Paige didn't score during the third quarter, her presence on the court continued to anchor the team's efforts. As Auriemma closes in on the all-time wins record, Sunday's game served as a testament to his coaching legacy, built on player development and team-centered approach. Because let's face it, if you watch that, if you were there or you watched or you listened to Bob Joyce on the radio or a little bit of everything, you can see that this team really enjoys each other, that they share the ball. Whether it's younger players that are trying to prove themselves or older players like Paige that are essentially just rubber stamping their legacies, it really shows that this team has a grip on who they are as a team early, which is led by Paige Bueckers. It is going to flow through her offensively, but don't sleep on quote unquote the others, right? If you allow Ashlynn Shades to score 15 or 17 points, if Sarah Strong drops 20 on you, if Janelle Elfie hits threes, if she's being an inside presence, if Ice Brady is kind of the enforcer, so to speak, and is being the physical presence, this team is more impressive every time I watch them. And it's early, so do they have to work on things like entry passes, making sure they don't turn the ball over? Yes, but they played a decent team in USF and Jose Fernandez's team. And the craziest stat from that game was Geno has played Jose Fernandez and his team 34 times and has not lost to him. I find that incredible. And I know it's USF. I know it's not like, Notre Dame or North Carolina, we're going to talk about here in a second, but it's mind-boggling. So some of the numbers that are put up, and I was listening to Bob Joyce and talk about how at one point I think UConn was shooting 72.8% in the middle of the third quarter, and that obviously dropped down to 67% for the game. But he was like, I think we're closing in on an all-time record if they can keep this pace, which they didn't. And he looked it up, and it was 72.7 or something like that. In a year, I think that Diana Taurasi played. If I'm wrong on that, and the answer, send it to me because I can look it up. But it's incredible that what they do efficiently on the offensive side, and I don't care who you're playing, to shoot 67% from the floor and do it with where you're shooting threes as well. If we look at the box score quickly before we move to the next segment, and you just look at the game against USF and the box score, they shot, let's see, really efficient from two. Because if you look at, they were 6 of 16 from three, which is, 37%. If you shoot 37% from three, you're in good shape. But if we look at some quick numbers, and we took the 38, they were 38 for 57 and 6 of 16 from the floor. If we did some quick math, let me see if I can do it for you here real quick. What that would be from the 2-point land, like if just their efficiency from that, I think that shows an incredible amount of efficiency. I'm going to pause and get back to you guys on that. And we're back. And through the power of podcasting, I will tell you that without the 3-point shot, UConn shot 77.5% from 2-point range in the game against USF, which is remarkable. So just kudos to the team. They're capable of contributing with Bueckers, without her. And obviously she's the essential leader on the floor. But as UConn gears up for its next game against North Carolina right here in my adopted city of Greensboro, they'll be looking to continue to build on this momentum with Auriemma's milestone just within reach. Up next, as I mentioned, UConn heads to North Carolina heads to Greensboro, North Carolina to face UNC, about an hour away from their campus. So an essential road game. We're going to give a preview of that all week. So let's start talking about it now after the break. Game Time, the perfect app for grabbing last-minute tickets. I was just on there today checking out tickets for UConn versus UNC at the Greensboro Coliseum, and it couldn't have been easier to look at things. I mean, from the views, I'm very familiar with the Greensboro Coliseum. It's actually called First Horizon Center now, or First Horizon Coliseum. So I apologize for the First Horizon for their naming rights, but it's the Greensboro Coliseum. Game Time's fast, simple, and has all the places all the right prices at your fingertips. And if you're looking to catch a game like this one or any event, don't stress about finding seats. Just download the Game Time app and just download it and use the promo code LOCKEDONCollege at checkout for $20 off your first purchase. Don't miss out. Game Time has you covered for all the action. Well, after cruising past South Florida and Boston University, UConn now turns its attention to an early season test against the 15th ranked North Carolina Tar Heels. While the game is technically on a neutral site at Greensboro Coliseum / First Horizon Coliseum, the proximity to UNC's campus will create an absolutely a much closer to a road game atmosphere than probably what people are expecting. Take this from me, who has been to hundreds of games at the Greensboro Coliseum, some with Carolina involved and Duke, others with mid-majors like UNC Greensboro and others, North Carolina A&T. When the Tar Heels come to town in Greensboro, it's going to be a lot of Tar Heel fans. You're going to see a lot of that Carolina blue. And I think this matchup will be a really great experience for UConn because it's a great facility. It's a pro arena. You're playing in a place where the ACC has had tons of history from both the women's and the men's side. This is a place that Michael Jordan played on, Candace Parker. So it's definitely a really cool place to watch a game and to have this type of environment. And it's a stepping stone before they face Notre Dame in South Bend a few weeks later. So really, I think the focus this week is going to be on what North Carolina does and how we can kind of preview it. But really, I hope UConn comes in ready to rock because this team is going to be ready to play. They have a balanced roster with a mix of veterans and new talent. The Tar Heels lineup will look different without Deja Kelly, who transferred to Oregon in the offseason. However, they return important players like Alyssa Utspa and Lexi Donarski, who have proven to be reliable scorers and leaders. Donarski is a sharpshooter and a strong perimeter defender. She's shown her ability to heat up from behind the arc, as evidenced by her recent 21-point performance with 5 threes against UNCW Wilmington. This versatility makes her a key player to watch as she looks to create an offense both from deep and off the dribble. UNC's new head coach, Courtney Banghart, has noted her team's confidence in its shooting, especially from three-point range. The Tar Heels have relied heavily on the perimeter game, with Donarski leading the charge alongside Renaya Kelly. This creates an interesting contrast with UConn, which has more balanced inside-out approach, although they're shooting a lot of threes. But I think that's where UConn needs to contest UNC shooters to try to prevent them from finding a rhythm early. Last season, UConn emerged with a hard-fought 12-point win over North Carolina at Mohegan Sun, despite both teams dealing with significant injuries. This time around, both squads are healthier, adding another layer of intensity to the matchup for UConn. This game serves as an opportunity to gauge its progress against a top 15 opponent, especially some of their younger talent stepping into bigger roles. For UNC, it's a chance to test their depth and resilience against one of the nation's top teams in the country, if not the best, as Banghart continues to push her squad to play with greater discipline and intensity, especially on defense. A key factor in this game will be UConn's ability to set the tone early and not let UNC's crowd sway the momentum. I know UConn women's fans are everywhere, and we're going to have a lot of UConn women's support in the audience, but it's going to be 70-30, if not 80-20 for North Carolina. So that's what that's about. I think if the closer this game is, the more it's going to feel like a road game for them. Paige, who has been on a tear to start the season, will be a central figure to keeping the Huskies focused, kind of getting the younger folks kind of in their first kind of true road environment and kind of seeing what this is like. I think her leadership is going to be tested on the court, and I think that's going to be a key aspect to watch, how she handles, Sarah Strong's homecoming. She's from Fuquay-Varina, which is, outside of Raleigh, and she played in Durham. So and she also was considering going to North Carolina. So I'm sure there's going to be a target on her back, coming down to her home state. I think Paige's presence will be crucial in maintaining that composure against a Tar Heels team that can put up points in bunches if left unchecked. From a tactical perspective, UConn will need to keep UNC off the three-point line, as we mentioned, make them kind of move off that line to try to get into the teeth of UConn's defense, maybe funnel them into Ice and Geno Auriemma. Those folks are going to have to, and those gals are going to have to not try and foul. I think that's the other thing, too, is you just don't want to get yourself in foul trouble and have to play lineups that aren't conducive to playing on the road. I think UConn's defensive rotations will be challenged by the perimeter of guards of North Carolina, and this will also be an opportunity for UConn's post players like Ice and Jana to assert themselves and make an impact on the boards. UNC relies on balanced scoring and solid rebounding from players like freshman Blanca Thomas and Sierra Toomey. For both teams, this early season clash is about more than just the outcome. It's a chance to establish momentum and measure themselves against elite competition. Let me tell you guys something. The Greensboro Coliseum is one of the better places to watch a game. If you can get to this game, if you're in Connecticut, or you're a UConn fan and you live close in the area, there's tickets available. Use the Game Time app. Use one of my sponsors. But I think it's also has to be said, like this is one of the better places to watch a game, just college basketball in general. So if you can get yourself there, I guarantee you're going to have a fantastic time. Whether you're a Husky fan, college basketball fan, just want to go and watch some good basketball, that is absolutely, it's a gem of a stadium, of an arena that really hasn't been updated in a while, but there's not a bad seat in the house, really, especially if you're in the lower bowl. I think both teams are going to look to build off some momentum from this season, but it's going to be an exciting game in Greensboro no matter what. And I think UConn is going to prevail, but we're going to have more on this. We're going to have some guests on the show this week talking about North Carolina and also the aspects of this game that we haven't touched on. And we'll follow the storylines as the week goes on. That's today's episode of Locked On UConn. I'm your host, Mark Zanetto, asking you to stay locked on, stay connected, and to remember, it's not just about getting it done. It's about doing it in a way that it can't be done any better. That's our goal every day. It's been the goal for 40 years for Geno Auriemma and Chris Daly. And it will continue to be my goal here at Locked On UConn to be one day better, one bit better every game, every day. That's all for me today, guys. Go Huskies.